Welcome to the Married People Podcast, where we help you make marriage real, fun, and simple. Each week, we have honest conversations about one simple thing that can make your marriage better. Because when your marriage is better, everything's better. I'm CJ, and here today we have our resident newlywed, Afton.
Hi.
And we have our 22-year marriage veteran. He's an author, speaker, and the director of marriedpeople.org. His name is Ted Lowe.
Hey, everybody.
And today on the Married People Podcast, we are asking the question, how do I get perspective in my marriage? Now, if that sounds like, well, what does that even mean? I don't even know what we're talking about here. But we all know what it feels like to lose perspective. And what I mean is we get caught up in the little problems and issues in our lives and in our marriages from day to day. You know, the laundry isn't folded, your spouse is late picking up the kids or getting home from work, you're talking about how you need a better car, your spouse never listens to you, those kinds of things. You know what I'm talking about,
Your
Afton?
spouse never listens to you when they are looking at their phone, which is all the time.
Is that a perspective thing, or is that just reality?
That is reality, and it is true, and it's always.
But you know what I'm talking about, Ted, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so that's why I'm excited to jump into today's conversation because, Ted, we don't say this enough, I don't think, but you have been working with married couples for, 16, 17 years now. So
Your whole life.
My whole life, exactly. I started when I was 19, right?
Exactly. And so I can only imagine how much you notice this when you're working with married couples or, putting together resources for married couples. Like so much of it is a perspective thing, isn't it, when it comes to our problems and issues in marriage?
Absolutely. Again, we've talked about it on the podcast all the time. What is our tag? We want to make marriage real, fun, and simple.
Right.
Again, for the millionth time on this podcast, I think we've made it too difficult. I think we really have. And I think a lot of times when people can just land on something helpful, like a helpful tool, it really can make a big difference. I mean, after I've heard you say, you thought when we started this podcast, you're like, oh, every time I'm gonna drive away feeling like I'm doing something wrong, and you're like driving away feeling like here's something good. And so, this one today was kind of based off like one of the most popular blog posts that we wrote called 3 one-liners that was great for our marriage.
Okay.
And it's just 3 one-liners. It's just 3 one-liners that they've been great for our marriage, and we've also shared these for a number of years. And I'm pretty sure some of them were probably shared with us, so they're probably not original to us. But I think if people apply them, it just changes your perception of things.
Right. So are you saying these one-liners, are they one-liners that you say to your spouse, or are they one-liners that you say to yourself?
That's a good question.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I think they work when you're together or when you're apart. We tend to use a lot of these when we're together, and they really have, like when you think about all the tools at Married People's Creative, all the tools we created at North Point, these have been the one. Like if we've got a Swiss Army knife in our pocket when it comes to marriage, these are 3 of the little tools on there that we use because they're easy.
CJ, you'll understand that metaphor because you carry a pocket knife.
I do.
So you would understand the metaphor of the 3 liners, like 3 different tools that open up out of the same little pocket guy.
Right. I'm going to tell Terry that. I think she'll totally get that. That makes complete sense. But seriously, Ted, the reason these one-liners are powerful is because they're perspective shifters, right? It's so easy to get wrapped up in the little negativity or the negativity moments, the negative moments in our lives and in our marriages, and these 3 one-liners help shift that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have had perspectives that we get from growing up, when we've got from, where we live in this country, culture, the United States, and being born Western brings a lot of perspective to it. I think the one common thing about Scripture is the authors were always talking to the people about how their culture was impacting their relationship with God and also with each other. Like that's kind of the common thread. And so I feel like that's kind of what happens here is our perceptions and, perspectives start shifting. And it's a natural thing. It's not bad hearts. We're not getting up going, hey, I want to look at things the wrong way. It's something that is so easily for us to fall into.
I'm just saying that for me personally, I get stuck in this cycle all the time, every day, because like personality tests. I've done all these personality tests, and on the Enneagram, I'm the 1, and the 1 is the perfectionist. And I see the world through this lens of like everything could be better. Like everything should be perfect and everything could be better.
That's your perspective.
And it's a really it is a real burden because you look at a situation or you look at your life or you look at your day, and when you look back at your day, you only notice the things that went wrong, or you only point out, or you only kind of cycle over and over in your head the things that could have been better. And like, if I had only done that better, if I'd only gotten that car, if I'd only made that decision,
if I was only driving that new car today,
then I would have the perfect life and everything would be great. Like then my perspective would be perfect because I'd be in the perfect situation. Do you know what I mean?
I know 100, because I'm the same way. I'm always think what's wrong, what needs to be better, what do we need to fix? And that's a perfect example, Afton, because I think it speaks to how we're just naturally wired too. Like that we are naturally wired in a certain way. Sure, our parents had a lot to do with that, nurture, but nature did too. And so God wired you in a certain way, and which makes you great at your job, right? That you want it to be perfect, because so your level of excellence at what you do. I mean, we can all say at this table how great you are at what you do.
Not so much, CJ. Okay, sorry. Got too sincere around here. God forbid. 5 out of 10 today so far, Afton.
So yeah.
Thanks a lot, CJ. Now I'm going to think about that for the next 20 days.
That's it. What for you, CJ? What would be like one of the negative perceptions that you get in, perspectives you get in?
Ted, I think for me, one of the cycles of the negativity or perspective cycles that I get into is that I could always do more in a day, or I could always I didn't get enough done today, or I didn't,
that is totally Hudson too.
Could have used that time a little bit better, and then you work a little bit later, then you get home a little bit later. I'm going to get up a little bit earlier, and you just almost get into that rut, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, if I'm not careful, my perspective I get tunnel vision. I start working. And I know, like you just said, Hudson, is similar in that way,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, Hudson will he'll have a to-do list every day, and if he doesn't complete the whole to-do list, he's in a terrible mood the rest of the, he feels like he should have accomplished more. Where I'm like, if I accomplished one thing and it was like the best thing ever, and it was the best thing I could possibly do, like done for the day. Like I did one thing super awesome. But for him, it's like I've got to get everything done on my list, or else I didn't do a good job and I'm not good at this, or then you get into negative self-talk.
So whether it's my perspective or Hudson's perspective of, our perspective of we got to work, that's the rut we get in, or whether it's the laundry's not folded and we need a better car, that's the rut you get in. Ted, I think we've teased this out enough. Let's get into how can we start to shift our perspective? What are the 3 phrases, the 3 things that we need to keep in mind?
And granted, these are our 3 phrases. These are Ted and Nancy's 3 phrases. You may have different ones that really mean a lot to you. But hopefully tease these out, and I think these have been helpful for us, and I think they've been helpful for a lot of couples. The first one is we would catch ourselves, saying, "Oh, I wish our house was more like this, or decorated like this, or bigger like this, or we had this." Or, "Oh, I can't believe I can't get Wi-Fi in the bonus room," those types of things. And so I think I've heard this in several different places, but we have first world problems. It really has helped.
That's the first one-liner.
Yeah, yep, great. We have first world problems. I think that is one of the greatest ones for us, because it kind of is a filter for your mouth a little bit, as much as anything, which I think, sometimes I'll think about things, then I'll come on, dude. And it stops complaining. It's also been something great with our kids that they've even said, and we will take them places and ourselves places to build, perspective. And we went to a shelter this weekend. I mean, it was so cold here in Atlanta. It's never this. It was so cold. So we took the kids down, and they were just making pancakes for these folks. And talking about, changing your perspective. You're going, oh my gosh, people are so cold and they're outside. How could we complain about everything? And it's so funny. Listen to us, especially. Oh, you come outside and go, oh my gosh, it's freezing out there. You're in the house, go, oh, it's freezing in here. You're going, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? So I think that's one of those things. It keeps you from complaining about lots of things, from like the comfort of your home to what you're driving to what you're wearing.
And it's something that you can say to yourself or to your spouse, because, you affect your spouse. So, but going back to, like what Afton, you said, Hudson deals with, or I deal with, I'm like, I didn't get everything done on my to-do list. Even that is like a first world thing. I didn't get back to all my emails today. First world thing. But if you do get into that frustration, I didn't get everything done today, get all my emails responded to, then I walk in the door and I'm frustrated, I didn't get everything done today. That rubs off on your spouse. So whether you say it to yourself or whether you get home at the end of the day and are just like, I didn't get everything done today, but that's a first world problem. We're doing okay. I think it is just a perspective and an attitude and a temperature shift, right?
Right. And you know what? Here's the thing. It sounds like a very serious statement, but it's actually, I have found it's lighter than it sounds. It comes up because it kind of comes up at ridiculous times.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel quite so heavy. It has been my manly mission to bring my sprinkler system back to life from the previous owner of this home. And I could have probably had 12 people out here doing it and doing a perfect system, the time and money that I've spent trying to do it myself.
Right.
But I can get so frustrated with it. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm really mad that I can't put clean drinking water on my grass to make it greener. Like, come on, dude, get yourself together.
Yeah.
So it comes up then. We also, Nancy and I typically don't use it with the other one. Like if she's over and she's frustrated with something, I'll go, hey, stop that in there. That's the first world problem. It doesn't usually roll like that. It's a little more personal to ourselves.
Yeah.
Or we'll laugh at ourselves, but I don't usually use it as a weapon.
Right.
And if you need perspective, it's more for me personally.
But it is something you can use with your spouse because
Totally.
we were trying to hang curtain rods this past weekend and together, and it's just like we're struggling and and we're starting to get frustrated, not at each other but just the job. And so one of us said, I think Terry said, well, man, this is a first world problem. And it just de-escalated the situation for both of us, not at each other, but just the project. And so it is still helpful for your spouse, but not at your spouse, if that makes sense.
I love that. For your spouse and not at your spouse. Perfectly said.
I mean, I would definitely be mad if Hudson said it to me because even if it is a first world problem, it's making me feel a feeling that I don't like. And for someone to belittle your feelings doesn't ever feel good no matter what.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah. It's a pocket knife. It's a Swiss Army knife for yourself.
Yeah, for yourself.
And it depends on your relationship. For some people maybe listening, you could toss that to each other. You have more of that type of relationship. Nancy and I are way too sensitive for that.
So what's the second one-liner to help us shift our perspective, Ted, in our life and in our marriage?
This one changed everything for us. It really did go a long way at fixing a lot of our arguments because what would happen is the line is this: do you want me to fix it or feel it? Do you want me to fix this or feel this? So it would go like this. She would share with me a problem, something that went on during the day. And as a guy, I'm going to stereotype for a little bit, but I think this is true for a lot of guys, is our instinct is to fix, to rescue. That's just kind of who we are, is we want to fix things. And if someone shares a problem, then they're wanting a solution. It's just the way, it's the way my brain thinks. So Nancy would share something, I would instantly go into fix-it mode, and it would completely frustrate her. And so her response would be, that's not going to work because da-da-da-da.
Right.
It wasn't that. And I'm thinking, she doesn't respect what I have to say. She doesn't think that I have anything good to say. She doesn't think I'm smart, whatever those things were. Yeah. Then she started telling me about that she would go off on these girl trips. There's 4 of them. They've been doing it for 10 years. And they go around, they talk what's going on now. I said, well, when you shared that, what did they say? And she looked at me like I had 3 heads. Not really nothing. We just listened. And she goes, and I'm like, how is that helpful? But I realized right then, and somewhere along the way, we landed on this line, you want me to fix it or feel it? And her answer 95% of the time is just feel it. Like she's going through an audit right now at work. She's an accountant. And she told me, she says, I'm going to be needing to complain this week. And all I need for you to do is say, I'm so sorry. Don't get frustrated with work. Don't get frustrated with me. I just need you to say, oh, that sounds hard, which... okay. I mean, she told me exactly what she needed. So that one it stopped the fights because we weren't really fighting about her not liking my ideas, right? We were fighting about her response and what she's needing. What I was giving her was not what she wanted.
Yeah. Afton, do you and Hudson, do you get frustrated at Hudson if he tries to fix something when you need him to feel something?
Yes, every day. Because we do that same thing where I'll start complaining about something or saying something, and he's like, well, why don't you just, or have you thought about, and I'm like, yes, I've thought, and now I'm arguing both sides. I'm arguing to him about the problem, and I'm arguing to him about how he's trying to fix it, and I'm like, that's why it won't work, and that's why I've tried, and so now I'm just basically arguing with myself, and he's like stuck in the middle. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's arguing against like two Aftons.
Yes. And it's double trouble.
That's scary.
It's
Two Aftons.
very
You
intense.
just imagine.
It's very intense. He learned very quickly that he just needs to say, that sucks.
Yeah. So that's the answer for your house
Yeah.
is going fix it or feel it because that sucks.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your perspective. But That's
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I think I definitely wrestle with this with Terry just because I need to start using this phrase. But I always do. I am the fixer, and Terry is a sharer, and she just needs me to listen. And I do think sometimes, up to this point, I just kind of guess, and maybe I just need to start asking. You know, like because I think that guessing is not always the best option. But yeah, just up front, do you want me to fix it or feel it? You know, it rhymes or it kind of, there's something there, or I don't guess it doesn't rhyme, but it's memorable.
I've
I think I
found
can
you really
remember
don't have to guess. She wants you to feel it. I mean, that's where I
Yeah.
finally got to go. I don't know what she wants of me right now. Yes, I do. She wants me to listen.
I think you always listen because I feel like I would ask if I want help. You know, like I will invite it. I'll complain, and then he'll listen, and then I'll go, well, what do you think I should do? Or what would you do if you were me? And I feel like that, when I invite it, totally give me your opinion. But until then, just like sit in it.
You take other people's opinions?
No.
So you've never actually asked.
I'm just saying that probably a normal human would say, what do you think I should do? I obviously
you've
already
never-
know the answer.
You've never asked that, but okay.
And I think
just clarifying.
The flip of that maybe is, you know, I would say to wives, you know, allow him to influence you. You know, this is a little bit of a side note. Just say, what do you think about this? Like, give him an opportunity to do that, because I do think there's something in men that want to rescue, they want to help, they want to save. There's something in us that still want to do that. I mean, as little kids, we played superhero. We want to do that. And so I've explained it to Nancy. I said, you tell me you just want me to feel it. It's like me driving down the road and I see you stranded on the side of the road with the kids in the minivan and me going, oh, that looks tough. I'm so sorry. And driving away. That's how it feels for a man, like to not help.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the things, maybe that's, you know, ladies, just ask me, you know, hey, I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to ask you what
But
you
then
think.
a lot of women are like, I can help myself if I need to, so I don't need you to come in and try to save me.
Right. But one of the things, I agree with that, and you don't, but one of the things is influencing each other, maybe give it, stretch that relational rubber band there.
I don't know.
So we have first world problems. That's a great perspective shifter. Do you want me to fix it or feel it? That's another great perspective and relational kind of shifter with your spouse. What is the third perspective shifter for life and for marriage here?
Yeah, I am hard pressed to know which one of these three has been the most important to us. The third one is we know tragedy and this isn't it. Or as my dad says, this ain't it. And I've shared a little bit on this podcast in my book that we've had tragedy. We've lost family members really suddenly. They were too young, that went in tragic ways. And it was really, really hard. And so I remember my dad saying something to me, who has been through a lot of tragedy, who would say at certain times, well, we know tragedy and this isn't it. And my dad was not one that was trying to bust out, you know, orange parenting principles. You know, he wasn't that dad, but the few times he did, I really resonate with that. So we've kind of brought that into our relationship, as we know tragedy and this isn't it. You know, it plays itself out during the holidays. I mean, the holidays, you're going 15 different places. The kids have got a million things. They're home. It was, you know, they couldn't go outside, so it was a little chaotic around here, and we're frustrated. And there's all those kind of things, and then you just stop and you go, okay, we know tragedy. This isn't it. Sharing with you guys earlier today, Nancy was, you know, we're recording here at my house. Nancy's been sick for the last couple of days. I mean, as sick as I've seen her. Again, in the middle of an audit, feeling horrible.
Yeah.
I stuck my head in her bedroom. I said, "How you doing?" And she's, "Oh, I feel really bad, but I'm getting some stuff done, whatever." And I said, "I'm so sorry." And she says, "We know tragedy, and this ain't it." And I just thought, wow, you feel really bad. Like you have a temperature bad. Like this is not the time I would probably pull that out, because I'll go ahead and feel sorry for myself. But I'm watching going, wow, that's really good. Because, this is the busiest time of year for her. And you have the flu, and you're looking at me with perspective. So I think she's using that, and at the end of the day, has relieved burden off herself and worry off herself, and given herself perspective. And I just appreciate that about her.
And it just instantly puts you two on the same page too. Like you're both in sync in that moment. When she says that and you hear that, you're like, okay, I know where her mind is, where her perspective is, and now mine's in the same place.
Right? Yeah, and I think pretty much everything's a tragedy. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. Like if we don't take the recycling to the end of the curb on Tuesdays, it's a tragedy. Where's all the recycling going to pile up? It's going to pile up inside my house. That's a tragedy.
Thank you for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
Yeah. No, I do think it's great though, and I'm trying to process this for what this looks like for Terry and I, because we haven't gone through tragedy, but we've gone through some really difficult seasons. Sure. And so we know what those feel like. And so I could even, we know tragedy and this isn't it, but, and maybe for us, it might be tweaked. It might be, we know difficult seasons. We know challenging circumstances and this isn't it. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it's the same idea. Like, hey, this isn't a big deal. The laundry's on the floor, or, we miss our, whatever. We're late to this appointment. We know challenges. This isn't it. We know tragedy, and this isn't it. And that is just an instant perspective shifter for sure.
It does. And I think the other thing it lends to the conversation is when it removes things being bigger than they are, a lot of times it'll remove the conflict.
Yeah.
It will remove, like, you get all amped up about things, you're going, but if you minimize or you have perspective of them, you're not going to fight about it as deeply. Mm-hmm. You're not going to, as Nancy says, it knocks out the petty. Mm-hmm. It moves out the petty, and it gives you more space. I was thinking, too, and I've never thought about it this way, but I know that when I heard her say that to me, is we know tragedy, this isn't it, what it made me want to do is do whatever I could to serve her. Instead of her being frustrated about her situation, which sometimes, people, if we're frustrated, with other things, we can be frustrated toward our spouse. She's trying to own it, and she's trying to even make me feel better that she's okay. And I thought, what? And my brain instantly goes, God love her. Like, bless her heart. Like, what can I do to make her life not as hard right now? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it minimizes conflict.
Yeah, no, it does. And that's what shifting your perspective, that's a big part of it, is minimizing those conflicts and those things that seem like big issues that really aren't.
Yeah.
So Ted, as we always like to do, we like to boil things down to one simple thing. So one idea that you could take home, you could try out this week. But what is our one simple thing this week, Ted?
I would pick one of these three one-liners, or choose your own, and have a conversation with your spouse about it. So once again, we have first world problems. Do you want to fix it or feel it? We know tragedy, and this isn't it. Or maybe whatever that is for you. We know tough season, and this isn't it. We know real drama and fake drama, whatever that is for you. And just have a conversation about it. And also, use it for yourself personally, even if you don't have a conversation with your spouse about it. Run it through your own lens. Mm-hmm. Run it how you're feeling, how you're you watch people around where we live, and I'm sure it's true for a lot of people listening, going nuts about traffic, just going nuts. And you're thinking, what is that doing but aging you and killing you? Like, what is going to happen right now? And so I think it's those moments to go, traffic, and another phrase, and we might throw this into the mix, it is what it is. I mean, that's kind of the generation, well, it is what it is. That's traffic. Well, it is what it is. Yeah. Can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I even think things like that can help.
Yeah, I do think there is great value in actually talking to your spouse about it, because right now, if you're just listening to it, these are 3 one-liners in your head. Right. If you have a 10-minute or 5-minute conversation with your spouse about it, now all of a sudden it's a relational thing between you two. Mm-hmm. And boy, it stands a much greater chance of actually working its way into your life and into your marriage, these one-liners, if you had a quick conversation about it, than if you just thought about it because it was a random podcast episode and never did anything with it. So I do think it's just, it has the chance to really, really impact your marriage.
You think our podcast is just a random podcast?
That's Afton. That's not the way I meant it.
I just took it really personally.
This is the podcast. I assume this is the only podcast people subscribe
This
to.
is why people should be happy to sit in traffic.
Oh, see?
More podcasts
That
with us.
with us.
And if you run out of episodes, you just start over.
Just start on over.
But start at episode like 3 or 4.
We were
Those
really
first
hitting our
couple
stride
were-
there. Yeah.
We're you know, you know. Well, do you guys have anything else before we wrap up?
No, I just think it's one of those simple things can make a big difference. It really can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for having this conversation with me, and thank you for joining us for the Married People podcast. We hope that today's episode helps you realize that marriage is a little bit easier than you think. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast through your Apple Podcasts app. And while you're there, if you would leave us a review, that'd be awesome. We would love to hear your feedback. You can also leave your feedback by following us on Instagram or Facebook and leaving comments there. We post about the podcast there as well. You can search Married People on Facebook or Married _ People on Instagram and Twitter.
And I would just like to throw in CJ and Ted. Aren't you interested if anybody listening had another one-liner that they say to their spouse or say in their heads all the time? I'm 100% honest. I would love to hear what other people's one-liners are that give them perspective in their marriage. So if they could tell us on any of the social media CJ just said what their one-liners are, I would really, really love to know what they are.
I think that is a great suggestion. So leave us your one-liners. Follow Married People and leave us your one-liners. And you can also leave your comments on our website, marriedpeople.org. That's where you can find the show notes for this episode as well. And then join us for next week's episode. We can't wait to have you back next week. Until then, though, I'm CJ.
I'm Afton.
I'm Ted.
And thank you for listening.